Hi, welcome to this week's Dragonblade Authors Unplugged. I'm so excited. I've got Michelle McLean, Lauren Everly, and Mary Wine with me today. Ladies, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Absolutely.
So we have kind of a light week of releases this week, but we're catching up with people we haven't been able to talk to before. But the first book that came out this week is Alexa's book, and it's part of the Captivating Kisses books. It's book 7, and it's Unforgettable Kiss. And Alexa's having technical difficulties, so we'll catch up with her on a future episode. But that means we can dive right into Lauren's book, which is part of the Secrets of the Sea. That's why I was going to make the Seductions of the Sea. It was not working. Secrets of the Sea. And it is the Sea of Seduction. Can you tell us about this one? And then show us that gorgeous cover, please. I mean, come on. It's got a bird.
Yes, that's so this is book 2 of Secrets of the Seas, and it's each of these is standalone, but they do feature all 3 books. They'll pop up 3 books. So and the antagonist
You're
is
breaking up just a little bit, Lauren.
sorry. Maybe I just need to talk louder.
That's okay. I got you. That works.
All right, just let me know if it cuts back out. But I was saying that they're interconnected standalone, so you can read each one by itself, but it is book 2, and it does continue the storyline, and this one will follow Isaac, who you got to meet in book 1. He's Christian, the main male character in book 1. It's his best friend, so we get to get his story here.
Cool.
In book 2 as they continue their hunt for the notorious Captain Thorn, the pirate. So this one follows Josephine, who we don't meet in book 1, but she's there because Isaac borrows a ship from the fictional governor of the island of Tortuga to go rescue his captain, Christian. So when he brings when he brings the ship back, he meets Josephine, and she, growing up kind of all alone on a kind of deserted pirate island,
Oh,
falls
my.
instantly in love with this handsome man and decides to take destiny into her own hands and follow him on his pirate hunt.
Do we have a stowaway situation, or does she have her own boat?
We have a disguises herself as a cabin boy.
Yeah, man.
Well, actually, there's 2 stowaway situations in here. So the first one, she actually stows away and hides away. And of course, she brings her pet parrot, Lola, who causes all sorts of mayhem and mischief. So she is discovered, of course, and he is not so very happy and decides to send her packing straight back to Tortuga with Christian and Samantha from book 1. She's not okay with that, so she makes the brilliant decision that she's going to stow away again.
That's worked so well the first time, you know.
So that's when we get the disguises herself as a cabin boy, which definitely caused a lot of trouble. So, so she follows him along on the pirate hunt of a lifetime, and he is similar to Christian, where he's very duty bound, and he's trying to work his way up in the military. This is his big shot, so he doesn't want to blow it, and now he's got a very headstrong island girl who doesn't really follow the rules of society, so she's a bit of a contradiction to everything that he knows. So he's trying to keep her safe, but also keep her out of the way, and you can probably guess where it goes from there.
And imagine we've got sexy pirates and stowaways and parrots. Yeah, all the things you need for a good time. How many more books are there in the series?
There is going to be one more book, which I'm actually literally I just took a break from edits on that one to do this video. So the next book will be coming out in July, and that one is Tides of Passion. And that one you'll get to follow Abigail's story, who's Samantha's best friend in book 1.
Oh, fun!
Subsequently becomes Josephine's best friend as well. So you'll get to she'll finally get her story. And if you read book 1, she's quite the romantic and dreaming of her true love, and so she finally gets her story.
Oh,
been super.
Great. And I love that we get to see all the characters over again. I like it when you can get really attached to them.
It's been really fun, and just flipping through this one. It came in the mail yesterday, so perfect timing for that. But I was flipping through there. Man, I love Samantha. I love that I got to put her in all 3 books. She makes just as fun of a side character as she made as a main character. So.
Oh, fun. Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to the July release too.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, we're going to throw back to a couple of weeks ago when Michelle's book released, and it is You've Got the Marques's Mail, which is book 2 in the Brailsford Brothers series. Can you tell us about this one? Also a gorgeous cover.
Yes, I love this cover. Yep, it's book 2 in the series. The whole series is kind of inspired by my favorite 90s rom-coms, and I do a Regency take on them. This one, you can probably tell by the title, is based on You've Got Mail, which was an interesting concept to set in the Regency period because it's an anonymous letter situation, which was hard to do. This one features the second brother, Hugo Brailsford, and in the beginning of the book, he has a little bit of a drunken night and decides to play a little bit of a prank on this blowhard that's in the club with him, and who happens to be our heroine's brother. And he takes the prank and kind of runs with it and ends up not ruining her reputation, but making her the laughing stock of London for a good several weeks.
Wow!
Which,
think.
Yeah. So it's one of those brothers, you know. So yeah. So as a result, you know, she's the laughing stock, and their families become bitter enemies over all of this. And then around the same time, she ends up finding a letter that a man has written to his grandmother. He hasn't signed it. He just says, "Your loving grandson." And she thinks it's a really sweet letter. So she thinks, oh, I'll just answer it. And also anonymously, which was also an interesting setup to do. But with the help of some friends and servants, they kind of begin this anonymous correspondence and begin to fall in love through their letters. And then while that's happening, they're actually meeting up in real life, not knowing that they're secret pen pals. And in real life, they have the banter and the enemies part going on. But the more they run into each other, the more they're starting to kind of look forward to running into each other. It's that love to hate you situation.
Yep. Best enemies.
So they're kind of falling in love in real life and in, yeah. And then, you know, obviously at some point they decide to meet up, and then all sorts of chaos happens because now what are we going to do? Because even if they're willing to forgive each other, their families are definitely not. They're still at each other's throats. So they have to navigate all of that and then kind of reconcile their 2 different people into one person. Does that make sense? You got mail situation, you know. So yeah, so they have to figure all that out before they can get their happily ever after.
Yeah, somewhere in there, somebody's going to have to be the one that says that they wrote the letters.
They do find out, yeah, and that's a what? Yeah, yeah. It was a fun setup. It took me a while to figure out how to do it in the Regency because to deliver a letter, you have to know who you're delivering the letter to. But it took me a couple months to work that out. But I did get a good situation that I think is actually realistic. So yeah, it was fun.
Oh, well, it sounds like so much fun. And I love the idea of them falling in love through the letters and then also falling in love in real life and then having to reconcile those 2 bits together. That's great. So the first book in this series was the Married Axe Murderess.
The covers are just the cutest. Oh, and I'm looking at it. Yeah, that one's the Marquis Married a Murderess. It's based on So I Married an Axe Murderer.
I threw the axe into your title, which did not belong there. Sorry.
Yeah, not quite romantic, but yeah. And then book 3 is called While the Marquis Was Missing, and it's based on a mashup of While You Were Sleeping and House Sitter, which almost nobody I've talked to has ever seen. It's got Goldie Hawn and Steve Martin. It's the cutest rom-com. So if you haven't seen it, go see it because it's really cute. But basically in that one, she they have sort of a one-night situation, although they don't sleep together. They just kind of hang out for one night, but then he goes on a trip for a couple weeks. While he's gone, her family mistakes her for his new wife that he said he was bringing home. And to keep her reputation from being totally destroyed, she kind of goes with it. And then when he gets back, they said they have to set up a fake marriage of convenience situation. So that one was, that one was fun too. Yeah, it's been a fun series to do.
I can imagine. Well, they all sound like a lot of fun, and like you said, the covers are adorable. So, yeah. Awesome. Well, we haven't had a chance to talk to Mary in ages, if ever. So I'm glad that we have you on today, and we have a chance to talk about the Enchanted Well series. And the last book in that series was The Masters of Mayhem, but it's 2 books out right now. Can you tell us about the series and the books?
The series itself is Dragonblade has some lovely anthologies, and they always give us a challenge to write for the anthology. During one of these, I created the Enchanted Well. So if the heroine goes on the full moon night and she eats a piece of the forest fruit, then when she looks into her bucket of water, she will see the face of the man she's going to fall in love with.
Ooh.
So the very first story talks about how the Highlanders actually started the fable just to keep people away from the well, because they wanted the English to stay away from the well so they could use it. They dug it after all. But the young girls in the area, when you come into the summer in Scotland, on Wales, on the border, I'm talking about during Mary Tudor's reign, the 1550s. This is an area where Welsh, Scots, English, they all intermingle and have for a millennium. So it's a place where bonfires are lit on Samhain night. It's a place where the Scots will come down, and my hero comes down, and on Samhain night, it's a masquerade. So they're going to dance around the fires, and my heroine is being raised by an extremely Puritan father. In fact, they've run away from London to escape being arrested because they're Puritans and they won't recant under Mary I. So the girls get the idea to go up to the bonfire because it's going to be their only time to ever dance. Their father is arranging matches for them with Puritans, and so they make themselves some masks. And see, I'm ready. Here we go. They're going to go out. And this is important because look how well Dragonblade did that cover.
Oh, it's lovely.
There they are.
Lovely.
And my hero comes down and they meet. And she is selected as the May Queen, which is scandalous to her family's way of thinking. One thing leads to another. She ends up going home because in this case, his stepmother, because he is born on the wrong side of the blanket, and she wants her own son to be the clear heir. Clan is a Tanis. Clan can vote for who they want to take over when the chief dies. Well, his legitimate brother is only 8 years old. So obviously the stepmother's a little concerned that they might choose the byblow. So she proceeds to think, how am I going to handle this? I'm going to saddle him with an English Puritan wife. That's what I'm going to do. She convinces her husband that this byblow has destroyed the reputation of this pure, innocent maiden and left her at home to the mercy of the English, whom we all know the English don't have any mercy. So the only thing to do is for them to get married.
Oh, man.
Yep, I know. Saw that one coming. I liked the mask part, though. And all the books in the series follow the Midnight Well. One way or another, all 3 daughters end up at the Midnight Well, and they end up seeing the most unlikely person ever to become in a relationship with. And since it's romance, they're going to live happily ever after.
That's, we count on that. We're going to give you our time, and you're going to give us a happily ever after. That's where we're going to end up. You can do all kinds of crazy things in the interim, but I want I want to know where we're going to end up.
Well, I've always said that writing romance really is a very challenging field just because of that. No matter what I say, what we say, the beginning of the book, in the middle of the book, and the dark moment of the book, the reader has been promised a certain ending. And how many readers read a book who already know the ending? There's the secondary challenge that comes around. But as writers, that's what we really muscle down and get into the reeds of the swamp to write.
Yeah, and I love that commitment to the reader. That idea that if you give us your time, we'll tear your heart out in a million little pieces, or we'll tickle you for however long you read, or we'll teach you something you haven't seen before. We'll take you on an adventure, but at the end, we're not going to Nicholas Sparks you. There's no City of Angels. There's not going to be a log truck that messes this up. You're going to end up with a happily ever after at the end.
Mhm.
And I think it means as a reader, you can kind of let go a little bit more, because you don't have to kind of, like when you watch a horror movie and you do it kind of like this, you don't have to guard yourself quite as much. So, awesome. Well, how many more books are in this series?
The one I'm writing right now, I think there's only one left, which I'm currently working on right now. But then I've got to hop on to another anthology piece, and I'm kind of thinking of what comes after that anthology piece.
I love it when the anthology shorts lead into something larger. I think that's part of the reason that we do it, so that readers can get attached to something and then want to move on.
Well, but the readers don't know. You got 15,000 words, and you get this anthology blurb that says, we need to know how something became enchanted. We need to know, and you got to have a couple in there that falls in love while you're telling them how something became enchanted in 15,000 words.
Which is not a lot of words. That's not a lot of words at all.
For those of us who normally write novels, we're like writing along, da 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 da. Oh wait, this is an anthology piece. Delete.
Those are the ones that hurt when you've already fallen in love with the scenes that you now can't include anywhere. So,
and then I'll walk in and there'll be a lovely little comment during editorial. Well, what does the dress look like? I don't have time for that.
Well, we have a little bit of time left, ladies, before we're done. So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about writing. And Michelle, you had talked a little bit about being inspired by rom-coms. Can we talk a little bit, Mary? And you had talked about being inspired by your short. Can we talk a little bit about where your ideas come from, how you decide on what the next project is, what really gets you interested in something? Look at everybody jumping in.
Like,
I just love all the volunteers. It's fantastic.
Okay, well, I'll tell you, people always ask me, where do you get your ideas, Mary? And, at the risk of ending up in a psych ward, I will tell people I don't have thought bunnies. I have thought velociraptors. They grab me by the neck and drag me into the weeds to tear my throat out and destroy whatever I was writing that day, and might possibly have a contract and a due date for this other idea. And I go, no, you have to wait. But they're velociraptors, so needless to say, they don't take direction well.
What about you, Michelle?
Ideas I kind of get anywhere. I mean, sometimes you'll hear something in passing that just kind of goes, "Ooh, that'd make a good story," or "Ooh, I wonder how that happened," or like with the rom-coms, it's a situation like with the You've Got Mail. I was like, "Ooh, now I wonder how that would happen in Regency," and then I sit there and want to play with it for a little while. And most of my other books, I also write contemporary romances as Kira Archer, and I write rom-coms under that name. So all my books are going to have a lot of humor in them. I just, I'm one of those sarcastic people that enjoy that banter. So, yeah, I just try to find situations that I find funny myself, and then put a little Regency spin on them, and which usually makes them funnier because it's a lot of contemporary situations, yeah. So yeah, and you can get inspiration. Watch what you say around a writer. Because it might end up in a book somewhere, or it will end up in a book somewhere. But yeah.
What about you, Lauren?
Oh gosh. Usually my ideas originally stem from me or learning about something before. So this whole series, the Secret series, it takes place.
Make it louder again. I'm sorry. It could be my ears.
My phone's. There we go. All right. Speak it really close again. You're getting close.
I gotcha.
Here. the first two books, a lot of them take place in Savannah, Georgia. Third book is going to take place in New Orleans, but I was in Savannah and I was at one of the old forts there, and I learned about how they used to hang the pirates on Cockspur Island out in the river, and that started a whole kind of side trail for me of researching, because I did not know that there was a resurgency of piracy on the American coast in the early 1800s. I thought it was all, back in 16, 1700s, age of piracy. So I was like, oh wait, there were pirates in the 1800s and they were hanging them here on the island. And then I was just walking along the river, and Samantha just kind of popped into my head, and I was like, well, what if instead of a guy pirate, I wrote a lady pirate? And it just kind of all snowballed from there. And then my antagonist, who spans all three books, he is loosely based on Jean Lafitte, who was a pirate in New Orleans, a very famous pirate in the 1800s. And so I kind of made him based on him, which is, that's kind of a nod to why my third book, kind of the ending of the series, takes place in New Orleans. So it's fun. And then I wrote a cowboy romance once, that Western historical, and that was after reading that's when I lived in Colorado, after reading some stories of people that had lived there and some events that had happened. And then what I'm working on now is same thing. I read about a lady moonshiner and fell in love with her. So it just usually, I've always got ideas, but then I read something new and very interesting to me, and that's when my bigger, more loud ideas pop into my head.
So you said Samantha came to you when you were walking. Do you usually get your characters first? Do they come to you fully formed, or do you get the plot structure first?
I would say characters. Yeah, characters first. I knew Samantha, and I had a really good idea with her, and Christian pretty quickly too. And then I think I even my antagonist, Captain Thorne, I think I had all three of them before I even started working on what the actual plot was and how things were actually going to go down. So, yep, I'm characters first, plot second.
Mary, what about you? Are you characters or plot first?
Usually I will get a scene. I see my books like in script format movies, so I will get a scene, and do not mistake that to saying I'm getting the first scene in the book, because
never.
My muse, she likes to be the head of the sled dogs team, and I'm just on the back yelling, "Mush!"
What about you, Michelle? Are you characters first or plot first?
Kind of depends on the book, but I think I tend to be more plot first, because like Lauren was saying, like I'll either come across an interesting tidbit, or like I have a Western series that's set in California. I grew up in California, in Gold Rush country. So all of our field trips were up to the Gold Rush mines. And I think I had watched Robin Hood right before I got the idea for that series. And I wanted to write like a Robin Hood series, but set in California, but with female bandits instead of. So I got my Bloodblade Sisters trilogy off of that one. And then, so yeah, I think I tend to start with the movie in my head thing though too. I'll get that situation in my head, and then go, okay, well now I need to build a whole story around that, because I got to have that scene in there. And then I kind of like figuring out which characters would be funniest in that situation, and kind of build it from there.
Yeah. So I think those scenes that you were talking about, Mary, they're like touchstone scenes. That I'm gonna get to this point, and I'm gonna get to this point, and I'm gonna get to this point. I don't necessarily know how I'm gonna get from here to here, but I know that this is like I can picture this is where we're going to be. How do you navigate when you don't know where you're going? How do you like? Because Michelle obviously has this experience, but like the beginning of the book, you don't really know who
they are. Never know where we're going. Are you kidding? No.
I know where I'm going. Now, my books, they are in 3-color, and I have to say, recently I have been working a lot on set, as a what's called a white knight, and it's been fascinating because it really fits with the way I write. I have always written from the time I wrote my very first book about 20 years ago, Dream Shadow. It just, for me, it flows like you're sitting in the cinema. And I will get up and I will walk around the house furiously after I get done. I type so hard, I chip the paint off my keyboard.
Oh no.
And I kill keyboards. I kill them. My husband actually just started buying me really cheap ones because I hit them so hard because I'm trying to get it out, because I'm watching it like in a movie. And if you ever like sat in a movie and tried to write everything that was happening in the descriptions, you're like, I'm never gonna make it. It's a pause button, but it doesn't work for that way for me. My snow globe is a three-dimensional place. And now there are times, of course, I'm not going to lie, because the other two authors here are going to call me on it. But there are times about 3/4 of the way through the book that I get on what I call my fainting couch. I don't have enough words. It's too short. I don't know what else. I'm all tapped out. Yeah, that's my dramatic moment usually. And I usually call one of my friend authors and they're like, Mary, go take a run. Oh, okay, I'll do that.
We've been here before. This is not the first time we've stood in this place.
Yes. One of my very good friend writers has actually threatened to Amazon me a fainting couch.
Michelle, you giggled when I said about not knowing where you were going.
Well, so when I first wrote my first book, I tried to pants it. I just wrote as I went along, and then I spent years editing that book. So now I outline pretty well, but my beginnings, I know what's happening. I know the endings, and my middles are kind of, oh, this is where they have fun and fall in love, and then so I tend to outline out my first 10-ish to 12-ish chapters really well. I outline out the last 5 chapters, and then the middle I just kind of leave alone until I get to that 10 chapter point. And then by then I usually know more what's going to happen in the middle, but I can't generally outline the whole book until I get started on it, because I've got to get the movie playing,
Yeah.
Once it starts playing, then I know more where it's going. And then once I have it all outlined out, I'll jump around sometimes. Sometimes I wake up and I know I need to write chapter 13, but I'm just not feeling it. But chapter 16 is in my head pretty well, so I'll just go write chapter 16, and then I'll go back and then I don't always do that.
Does that too. It drives me nuts. Like, how can you do that? It's like, I am a linear girl, like we go this way.
But to me, I've already done it linear because I've got my outline. So that's kind of like my brainstorming process, and my outlining process is getting the story out, which is a problem sometimes, because sometimes I get to the end of that outline when it's all fully outlined. I'm like, okay, story's done. I've got it out of my head. And I'm like, oh, I have to go like write the whole thing now. So sometimes it's a little bit of a problem, because it kind of gets that urgency to get the story out, gone. But at the same time, it helps me when I am having a hard time. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And then once I start writing the scene, then it starts flowing again. But so sometimes it helps just to have that, okay, do this. You're supposed to do this today. And then I can sit down and get it going. But yeah, I mean, jumping around sometimes helps, because sometimes when you get that block and you just, there's always a point where you get, so to see they're nodding like, yeah, if I get to that block, if I can move and do something else that's not blocked, then that usually helps the rest of it start flowing again. So.
That makes sense.
Yes, definitely.
Lauren, do you outline or do you just wing it?
I am a diehard outliner. I used to be an author mentor, and that was the first bit of homework I had for every single one of my mentees, was to reverse outline their manuscript. And then we would put it into a romance beat sheet, romance outline, and then we would start working on actual edits and stuff. So I always outline, but I will say I basically outline each beat, and so I know the order that I need to go in, and it's a maybe a sentence or 2 sentences for every beat of the story. I usually don't know what's actually happening. I don't map out a whole scene way in advance, but I do map out, like, from the beginning to the end, every single beat, every single, like, plot point that needs to happen. So I do kind of have that jotted down. And then as I'm writing, I usually will kind of the same thing. Like when I start feeling a little blocked, or like the words are coming excruciatingly slow, that's when I'll kind of take a break, and I will finish like outlining the next couple of scenes where I actually go in. And so I know now that I'm just a scene or two before then, I have a much better idea of what's going to happen in that scene. So then I'll get like a paragraph or 2 paragraphs out I do it all in spreadsheet. So I'll go from a couple sentences to 1 or 2 paragraphs, and then I'm usually 2, 3, maybe 4 scenes out. So I guess it's a blend. I don't know.
That's so much better than sitting down and hoping.
Blended outline. I don't know. I'm very, very big into outline, because same thing. My very first book that I wrote, I didn't even know about beat sheets. I didn't know about outlining. I just wrote the book, and I was so proud of myself when I got that book written. And then,
as you should be.
And I had friends read it, and they're just like, well,
they should be.
This thing happened way too early, and this thing didn't happen at all. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So, and then I tried to rewrite that book and outline it, and my goodness, it never did happen. That's actually a young adult fantasy. Was the first book I ever wrote, but I never did finish rewriting that, because just to pick that up, and I mean, it was a full rewrite. And so that I learned, I was like, well, I don't want to ever do that again, because I got 110,000 words just sitting here that are like just sitting there forever now. So I'm like, no, I'm a slow writer, so I like value every single one of my words so much, because it takes so much to get each word out of me. So no, I really like, because I have friends who are like, oh yeah, I wrote like 2 chapters and then decided to go different way and deleted both of them. And I'm like, oh my God, weeks to write chapters, and it would kill me to have to delete them. So no, I do try to outline as best as I can before going into it.
That makes sense. And then maybe that's something that we'll talk about on a future call, is the novels that are still in your desk drawer, because I think we all have several.
At least
you don't talk about that learning to write, because I think instinctively as writers you have sort of a sense of story, because story is in everything we do, and I think you have sort of a sense of story. But that idea of connecting that sense of story with the craft of writing a good book, one that somebody wants to spend their time in, it requires a certain number of words that nobody sees but you. So.
I think probably the biggest challenge, having listened just to my co-authors here, is that we all want to hop around different genres. Mm-hmm. But then you're not building your brand, and you're kind of, throwing balls all over the baseball diamond. You're not getting anywhere.
Yeah. And like we talk about brand, but really part of that is like the reader's promise. As they read the Mary Wine book, they know they want to get this from you. That's the experience, like picking your flavor of ice cream or the journey you want to go on. So.
I think you can have a connecting thread too, because I've written Westerns, Highlanders, Regency, and then I also write, as Kira Archer with my contemporaries. But you're going to find the same, like I have humor in all my books. They're all, my historicals are basically rom-coms just set in the past, and so you're going to get the same kind of flavor no matter what book you pick up. And for me, like, I don't think I could write the same thing over and over again. I also write nonfiction too, because I have to be able to jump, or my brain gets just stagnant a little. So like I write a contemporary, and then I'll write a historical, and then I'll do a little nonfiction, and then I go back to historical. And then right now I'm writing 3 books at once, but it works well, because I can do 1,500 words a day on this historical. Then I do 1,500 words on my contemporary, and then I do 1,500 words on a different historical. And it's actually working really good, because the second I'm a little ADHD, and the second my brain starts shutting off on something, I'm switching to something else. And it's shiny. I get to do this now. And yeah, so a lot of people look at me like, okay, you're crazy, but
The two things can be true at once. It don't have to be mutual.
It's true.
Ladies, it was delightful talking to you today. I really appreciate taking the time. It was an absolute treat. I will make sure I put the links to all of your books in the comments and Alexa's book as well, so you can grab them if you haven't gotten them already. And I'll make sure that we post. We'll make sure we post on our all social media pages the next anthologies that are coming out, so that you don't miss those, because Dragonblade anthologies are a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks again, ladies. I appreciate it.